When we look at primary sources in the past, it's almost as if we're looking at Martians or aliens. It's a different place, it's a different time, and so we have to figure out what these primary documents are trying to say, not just what they're trying to say, but in the context of the situation, the place, the location, the time, who it's coming from, and for what particular purpose. And so we use this method called SOAPS as a means to try to evaluate primary source documents and to have a greater understanding beyond just simply what the document is stating directly. Okay, so we're going to try this with Hammurabi's code. Okay, and so if you haven't already, go and open up the document that's listed there. What you should see is a background. So first of all, this is a secondary evaluation. So this part right here, this background that's usually provided is to help you as a student figure out what's going on. But again, this is often not provided if you're a historian. So you have to kind of figure this out. But again, in this case, it is provided for you. And the rest of this is the primary source document. So go ahead, and what you're going to do, first of all, is to take a few minutes, and you're actually going to read the document, and you're going to generate in this first part here a summary or a literal interpretation of the document. In other words, at face value, what is the document stating? And so take a few minutes, go ahead and read this. Pause the video right now so you can go ahead and read, and to the best of your ability, tell me what this document is about. Okay. So what you should have generated from this particular document is that it is like the title, it is a series of laws, but a series of laws to different people and different groups. And so it's going to specify different places and individuals and groups in society and how, in the end, a law applies to them. Real straightforward, right? But we can denote a lot more from looking at the document, looking at its where it exists in human history, who the author is, and the purpose of the document, because it will help us to generate a stronger understanding. What we're going to do is we're going to source the documents to take a look at the occasion, the author, and the purpose, and eventually we want to take a look at the significance of the document in history as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to guide you through each part. I'm not going to write down very much, so you do have to listen in to get a sense of what this document is about. So first of all, we want to take a look at the occasion, right? The time period, the historical context in which this exists. So what you want to do is you want to be able to take a look at what Mesopotamia was like. So go back to your lecture notes and say, look, what's this environment of Mesopotamia? How do Mesopotamian kings end up ruling and governing this particular region? And not only that, but if you go to your reading, what led to the rise of particularly the Babylonian Empire as well? So all this will help you to be able to situate the document. So pause the video right now, think about it, and we'll come back and we'll address this together. All right, hopefully you're able to write down a few things for the O part, but let me go ahead and recap various parts to you. So first of all, again, this is the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia. Yes, it is fertile. You do get that surplus, but it is also a dangerous location to be, right? With invaders, both human and insect. You've got flooding that is unstable. Sometimes you have the right amount of water, sometimes too much, sometimes too little. And not only that, but there are competing city-states as well. And in many of these cases, you have conquest from one city-state over another. So unlike Egypt, where you, in a sense, once the Egyptians have conquered the other city-states, it's relatively stable. There's some invasions, but otherwise you've got dynasties that last for generations upon generations. You have a lot of change, this instability that exists in the Middle East. And one of the empires that comes about is the Babylonian Empire. But please note that a lot of this is done by force. One city-state conquers over another. And so what that generates is an empire that is multicultural, multidimensional. And so you're going to have different people groups, different cities, different gods, different religions. And so you are going to, on one hand, have a Babylonian elite, right? The conquerors. But there are other city-states, other different groups, other ethnic groups that in the end will want to be loyal, but you need to give them a reason to be loyal. Okay, so that's the situation that we see in Babylon and other empires that we're going to study later on as well. Okay, so that's part of it. That's the occasion. That should help us to understand, hey, why this law exists. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the author. Okay, so a few things you want to look at the author. Sometimes there is more than a single author, okay, in this case. So you could probably figure out at least one author. So go and pause the video right now and see what you can come up with in terms of the author and some of the essential background that you might need from the authorship. All right, if you're coming back, hopefully you've figured out a few items here in regards to the author. So first of all, you probably know Hammurabi is definitely one of a potential author, but he's the king, he's the emperor, and chances are he's not sitting down figuring out the law. If anything, it's dictated to an elite group, a specialized group, the scribes. Okay, so what you want to be able to think about is the motivation of these groups here. So yes, as king, in one hand, he wants law and order. Okay, that keeps things working for him. So he wants law and order. But if you want to think about the scribes, as an elite class, what they might have for themselves to be able to secure this, not only their ability, but you can imagine they're passing on their skills from generation to generation. What can they keep for their children and their families and so forth? So think about that in the authorship, and hopefully you're able to generate some conclusions on why either the scribes or Hammurabi would in the end want to generate this set of laws here. All right, the last one we want to take a look at is the purpose, and in purpose we want to actually divide it up between various audiences, different groups. So you want to be able to say, look, this is not just to one group of people, but to multiple as well. So think about possible audiences that this law could be in. So if you're reading the piece, again, you can see different groups in here. So you have the patricians, who are the elites of society. Chances are this is the Babylonian nobility, the elites that have existed in the past. So you've got the Babylonian elites, the patricians. And then you have regular free citizens, the plebeians. That's the term that's used there. And I'm going to put commoners here. But then there are other groups, including slaves, and at least in this excerpt, also women as well. So what I want you to think about is, for each group or some of these groups, what this might be saying. What is the message of Hammurabi's code for these particular groups? So go and pause the video right now and see if you can come up with, okay, what is it trying to tell these particular groups and why? All right, if you're coming back, let's go ahead and recap what it might mean potentially for this group, why this document is not just simply a series of laws here. So let's start off with the elite, the patricians. So if you're looking at this, this is an unequal legal code, right? Some groups and some people have benefits over others, and so therefore you can imagine the purpose for this is to demonstrate to the elites that they have status. And if you're looking at this in regards to the Mesopotamian Empire as a multi-ethnic, multi-city empire, you can imagine there are nobles, rulers of other cities that have been conquered, or military commanders who have been given status over time, that they in the end may want some sort of privileged status. And so Hammurabi, in order to generate order, support of the powerful, he's going to say, I have a legal code to protect you, and not only that, but for your generations to come, that you have a special place in our society, that you're protected. You may not be Babylonian, you may have earned your place at some point, you get to keep that place, right? So if someone pokes out your eye, then hey, you know what? You get to poke out theirs, right? There is privilege in your particular status. But yet, what does this mean for commoners? Does that mean they get nothing? No. What this generates in a place whereby you can imagine in the past nobles and others have taken advantage of their privileged status, you get in this legal code legal protection for commoners, that they get some right. So yes, if their eye gets poked out, too bad, right? But they get some kind of justice. May not be equal justice, equality is not a thing at this time period here, but they get some form of law and order and justice from this, right? And so for them, they get something. They get protection despite not being a noble. And so you can imagine in both of these cases here, you're going to garner loyalty without the use of force that this society has usually resorted to. For slaves, well, it shows they have nothing. But you can imagine there might be some recourse for them in regards to freedoms that they might have in other parts of this code here. And lastly, for women, if you look at that last piece here, a place in many of these sedentary societies, women have completely lost any privilege, any status whatsoever. And so what you get is they also get some sort of legal protection. So yes, not complete, but they do get something out of this, right? And if we look at sort of the big picture, the significance of this piece here, this is one of the first legal codes that we see, and it's a new means by which, even in the most contested societies, you can have a form of law and order and a means to rule a vast empire that is multi-ethnic, multinational, diverse, different groups of people of the conquered and the conquered in one place. And we see this in a very unstable place and a new way to be able to build an empire. So with that, we have hopefully at this point, a much stronger understanding of how a primary source document can tell us so much more. So the goal is to be able to take these documents and to be able to generate ideas. So in other words, be able to support claims. And so hopefully we've done a little bit of this before. But what you want to do is this. Take Hammurabi's code, and you're going to try to support this particular claim with the document itself here. So sort of use these guiding words here. So to identify the evidence in this case here, you actually have a document. So you can do two things. One, you can quote the document. Now, I don't recommend this because so much for the document-based question essays we're going to answer. But if you do, if you quote the document, make sure it is short. And sometimes use ellipses, like the dots to take out parts of the document that you find are useful. What's better is if you actually do some interpretation. Take that literal summary of your evaluation of the document, and from there you should be able to generate some kind of summary for this piece here. So using your own words is usually the best for this. Then what you want to be able to do is, so this document states this, Hammurabi's code is this. Explain the evidence. This means, what is this document stating? So if you're using your own words, you may be doing this at the exact same time here. So if you have a quote, you definitely need to explain the document further using your own words. This is how you interpret the document. And then from there, you have to come back, right? Close the loop. Address the prompt. It is saying this prompt is about maintaining order by the use of social classes. So how does your quote and explanation in the end address this prompt right here? You may have already said it, but you may want to reiterate at this point. And then finally, you're going to use the sourcing of the document. So in other words, what this document actually means. What does it mean that in regards to the greater Mesopotamian society? So you can discuss using occasion. Or you can talk about the authorship. What sort of motivations would lead Hammurabi or the scribes to have this document written out? Or, like we've discussed, talk about the purpose for the particular audience. Was it trying to say to particular social classes, and for what particular purpose? So to the best of your ability, go ahead and complete this document. And this is going to help you in the process of eventually writing the document-based question essays.